medicine by treating the child. And when you start doing it, the child will be cured. You understand?
Yeah.
So that would in fact prove that it was not an evil eye. It was just some mishap which resulted in the child's illness. And again, if suppose you are convinced that it was after all evil eye, it was not caused by any physical instrument or physical means, then what is the answer? The answer is you should pray, you should say La hawla wa la quwwata, you should seek refuge with Allah, say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, and the evil thoughts will be dispelled. And of that also we have a proof in the Holy Quran in the same incident which I referred to, the bout between Moses and the magicians. He didn't exert any mental pressure upon them. He didn't even try to influence them through the power of his mind. He himself was so scared. How could he counter that influence by his superior will? Every time he threw his staff and it appeared to turn into a python or a big snake, he ran away. That was his mental power. So when such a person, as weak as Moses was, in his resolution and bravery, every time God had to tell him, no, don't run away, please stop, stay, I am with you. Then what worked for him? What was that? It was God's superior power. So God has already shown you. If I can do it for one person, I can do it for another person too. Only you have to beseech me, you have to come to seek my help and seek my refuge. So that is the only thing permissible to a Muslim, to seek Allah's refuge and forget about the other things. Otherwise you will live in a world of superstition from which you will never be able to extricate yourself. Okay?
Exactly.
Assalamu alaikum, Hazrat.
Walaikum.
Although this question has been bothering me ever since I heard it, that in an event of war, i.e. jihad, when, if you're fighting especially against people who are fighting to stop you practicing Islam, and in the bounties of, when you capture the army, amongst the bounties, if you capture their people and the women, they are also become your property. I heard the word londi. But the question that bothers me, although I've heard that it's in Islam it's advisable or preferred that you should release them and get them married amongst themselves. But the question that bothers me is that while they're your property, I mean, as I heard it, I mean, it sounds horrible that you can use them as mistresses or use them as you wish because they are your property. I mean, this is a question that has been bothering me since I heard it.
The Holy Quran has used the word, whoever is under your right hands, that is under your command. They're under your care. This is the meaning. And the situation which is discussed in the Holy Quran is that of a war with an enemy which practices these things. Not with an enemy which treats women with respect. In fact, this was a custom of the entire world for a long time. Only recently these customs have started changing, but not enough. The custom was that there were no camps for war prisoners. And the prisoners were distributed to the soldiers who became victorious or who won a temporary victory over the enemy and got some prisoners, among them women as well. Now the enemy or the warring parties, both of them, they, according to the established custom, treated these women as their real property. They could do anything to do them, whatever they like. But instead of handing them over to the wolves pack. Only they were handed over to one person, so that at least he doesn't go beyond certain limits to do bad things to a person. So then belonging would be to one person and he would be responsible, and no one else in the society will have access to that lady. If this is done by the enemy, and if it is not done by the Muslim party involved with some enemy, then the ladies of the non-believers who already have a very low moral standard, they'll be treated with deep respect like they're ladies. And the real chaste ladies of Islam will be treated like they are beasts. That is not evil, even. I mean, that's not justice. That's not an equitable arrangement. That is why in wars, everywhere, even today, it is an established principle, almost like an unwritten law, that as the enemy treats your soldiers, your prisoners belonging to your people, so also you have the right to counter that by doing exactly the same things. Now, this is a universal principle to keep people in check. If it were not practiced, then the enemy could go beyond all limits in transgressing against a well-behaved people. They have limits, they will not cross, and they have no limits, so they can do as whatever they like. This had to be brought to a check and to a halt. This is why the Holy Quran speaks of this situation, as says that you have certain permission from God to treat these women. But you are not permitted to make any transgression against them. You are not permitted to treat them as commodities. And many conditions are laid upon your treatment of the prisoners of war, which create a new category of prisoners of war, which was never seen like that before, not only in that age, but even today. If you read the conditions attached to the prisoners of war in Islam, the teaching is so highly civilized and so highly cultured that even in the modern wars, you can't find any such thing even close to that. Haven't you read about the treatment meted out to the prisoners of war by both sides, Germany and England and all the belligerent nations?
Yeah. Well, I've witnessed it myself in Bosnia.
Haven't you seen the places, the war prisons?
Yeah.
And how these women were treated, and how these children were treated, and how in forced labor and with being poorly fed, they died out of, gradually killing hunger, which would not kill them suddenly, but it was a lingering torture by hunger, which ultimately destroyed them. I've seen the pictures of those prisoners. I've seen the prisons themselves in Germany, wherever they are kept preserved. So you can't say it was just Germany. They were treated alike everywhere. The Germany went forward a bit too much, but the treatment of other prisoners of war, by Japanese for instance, most horrid. So even today, when people boast of such advanced civilization, the treatment of prisoners of war is far below that standard, which is laid down as a rock bottom standard by Islam. So in respect of those women who were captured, imagine what could be done to them. Number one, some among them were married, separated from their husbands.